If a woman becomes president in 2016, what would her husband be called? Frank Fiorina, husband of presidential candidate Carly Fiorina, has some ideas about that. And CNN's chief political correspondent, Dana Bash, sat down with him and talked about that. Hey, Dana, tell us what he said.
Hey, Allison, you know, it takes a certain kind of man to be comfortable sitting the spotlight to his wife, but Frank Fiorina has done that for decades, a surprisingly modern version of a traditional husband.
Morning, girls. How we doing?
Inside Carly Fiorina's headquarters, a visit with young campaign aides and a thank you.
We really appreciate it.
This is Frank Fiorina's role these days, a supportive husband who does whatever he can to help his wife's presidential bid.
You are Mr. Carly Fiorina.
I was always proud to be. Always proud to be.
Taking a back seat to his wife is hardly new for him. He predicted it when he met Carly more than 30 years ago, when they were both working at AT&T.
Now, I was a higher level than her, but there was no doubt in my mind she was going to surpass me in the ranks at AT&T, rightfully so, and she would be chairman someday. Now,
did you tell her that?
I did tell her that, and I'm not even quite sure why. At the time, it was a mixture of a great line and the truth.
It wasn't AT&T, but Carly did eventually become a CEO at Hewlett-Packard, and Frank decided to quit his job to support her.
You retired at age 48, the peak of your career, to be Carly's husband.
That's true. And it was quite controversial, believe me. I knew it was the right thing to do.
But playing the supporting role isn't always easy.
When you think about a person that's that smart and that hardworking and that focused, it's hard to keep up sometimes.
They never had children of their own, but Carly bonded with his then young daughters like none of his other dates had.
It was just like a Disney movie. I mean, they would play havoc with my dates. And when I finally got to bring Carly home, it was pretty clear to me that the three of them loved each other.
In 2009, one of Frank's daughters, Lori, died of a drug overdose. Carly was diagnosed with breast cancer.
It was a bad year. I kept saying, this is going to end badly. She was too smart, too educated. She would never admit that she had a problem.
He wears a bracelet made from a necklace Lori wore the day she died.
It was a necklace that Carly bought her. So I know it looks silly, but
no, it doesn't.
I wear it all the time.
My husband and I lost one of our daughters to addiction.
Carly often talks on the campaign trail about the loss of her stepdaughter and the need to fight addiction.
My husband Frank is back there.
She also talks about how Frank, who started out as an AT&T technician and a tow truck driver, keeps her grounded.
Okay, why would I want to be president? My husband asks me that occasionally.
Do you like politics?
Frankly, not particularly. Politics is so different than business. And, of course, I spent my whole life in business and working.
He's often with Carly on the trail, but mostly keeps his opinions to himself.
I'm very cautious about when I give her advice. Very cautious.
Why?
Because she has so many people giving her advice. So I really try to pick my targets. If there's something I really feel she's being misled about, I speak up.
Like most political spouses, he takes attacks on his wife harder than she does.
When you hear criticism of your wife, what do you want to do?
I'm an Italian boy from Pittsburgh, so I don't need to quite explain what I'd really like to do. But it just infuriates me.
And when Donald Trump made fun of his wife's face,
I almost thought it was humorous. I mean, out of all the people on the stage, it would be hard to say there was anything wrong with Carly's face, I would say.
Do you think that she's treated differently because she's a woman?
Carly won't say this, but I will. I've watched for 34 years how she's been treated differently in everything she's done in life, everything.
Still, Frank's prediction about Carly's business success came true. They're both hoping he was also prophetic about politics.
At least 18, 20 years ago, I said she was going to be president someday. But I wasn't encouraging her to do that. I was just stating the obvious, that's all.
and candid interview with him. So what does Frank Fiorina think the first husband should be called?
Well, I asked him, I said, will you be kind of the first dude like Todd Palin was in Alaska famously? He said, no. He said, I think I just want to be called the first Frank. He said, Frank's what I've been called all my life, and I'll just stick with that.
I like the alliteration. During the debate, during the CNN debate, as you know, Carly Fiorina talked about names she'd been called. She said that she'd been called every B word in the book. Did you ask Frank about that? Did he share any stories like that?
He did. One of those words is probably obvious. We shouldn't say it on morning television. The other is bimbo. He told me a story about, he said it was her first management job at AT&T, the first time she had people reporting to her, and her boss came in and introduced her to her new team as the token bimbo. He said, can you imagine that, token bimbo? And he was shaking his head kind of in disgust still all these years later.
Oh, my gosh. Times have changed, thank goodness.
Yes, they have.
Right.